Hi team, I hope you're all really well. First off, I will acknowledge that I did not post a video last Sunday. I was quite annoyed with myself. I just didn't plan my time at all. I had 3 of the 4 things I wanted to show you in my sew and tell for January completed. And I could have rushed it and tried to put something together, but I really just want the videos to be high quality. So I am annoyed that I didn't sort my time out properly. But I am here this Sunday and I have a sew and tell to show you all the things that I've made in January. So let's just get straight into it. Couple of things that I want to talk about first, which isn't sewing related, it's just aesthetics related, is one of the other things that I have as, I guess, a hobby or a real passion of mine that is a very close second to sewing is gardening, specifically indoor gardening. I have so many houseplants and I just decided that I wanted to start bringing that into my videos just to give the background a bit of depth, because a lot of my sit down and talking videos is just me and then a white background, and it was just a bit like, it could be a bit more interesting, a little bit more enticing in the background. So I have behind me my oldest plant children. I believe it's the cheese plant, but with a recent book that my mum gave me at Christmas, I think that it's probably not the traditional cheese plant, but it's like a cousin or sister or some kind of relation of it. So it's still a Monestra, but I don't think it's the one where the leaves get more holes in it as it gets older, because I'm pretty sure with my one, the leaves, when the leaf is born, if that's how you describe it, it already has slits in the leaves. So I think it's just a cousin or something of it. But regardless, I love it. I've had the plant for about 4 years, maybe a bit more. And I bought the plant originally, I think, from B&Q, and there was 3 of them, 3 stalks. I'm not really too sure all the technical terms, but it was sold as one plant, but as it grew it got really, really massive, and it was too big for the pot. The roots were too big for the pot that it was in, because it had effectively 3 of them in it. Repotted them, I want to say last summer, so summer 2018, into 3 separate pots by themselves. And obviously they look a little bit sorry for themselves when they're by themselves, because before they were like basically a big bush, and then now they're just like one stalk by itself, like, hey, I'm still living. But, you know, as they are sort of finding themselves in their own little pots, you know, away from their brothers and sisters, they're doing a lot better. So I've got 2 of the oldest in here. The other one lives in my actual sewing room, so you'll start to see that one a bit more often as well. And then I got this bust behind me from an office clear out recently, and I had hoped that the measurements for it would match my measurements, so I could just use it as a new bust that I need to replace for when I'm doing my dressmaking. But the measurements are too big. Some of the measurements match, but then a lot of them don't match. So that would mean that if I was making things, I'd end up making them too big and have to keep taking things in. So I have an idea to make this bust into a houseplant friendly bust, is what I'm going to say. I'm going to leave that one with you, and over the course of this year I'm going to be working on making that into something quite fabulous, and then that will become more of a feature. Right now it's just got a plastic bag on it to protect it from getting any dust, so it doesn't get too dirty before I can do what I want to do with it. That's the little topic about the background. I have listened back to a couple of my old videos, and the microphone that I use, which is a Rode mic, it's one of the cheaper options, but it's supposed to be a good microphone. I'm not completely sure what happened to it, but I think maybe about a year or so ago something happened that makes it have a bit of a hissing sound. At first I thought if I just moved the different dials and stuff in the camera, obviously dials is the technical term, that's exactly what you call it. I mean, if I changed all the settings in my camera, then maybe the microphone might work a bit better. It didn't really work, so I am going back to recording my audio with an iPhone, so hopefully the sound on this one will be a bit better, and then that's something I'm just going to try and improve, because all the videos that I've been watching about how to improve your videos, sound is a very key one in it. So hopefully the sound from now on will be a bit better. Keep going with those high quality videos. Now to get onto all the business that you guys really came here for, and that is to see all the things that I have been making in January. For those of you who follow me on Instagram, and I would seriously invite you to, we'll probably have seen a sneak peek already of the things that I am about to show you, but obviously this will give you a bit more about the patterns that I use, the fabrics, how I found them, etc. So keep watching. The first item I'm going to show you is this blouse. To make this blouse I used Butterick B6487 and I made it in a viscose fabric. Quite a while ago. I think it must have been in one of the discount hauly things that I did over either a sale period or just generally when they pop up on the internet, and it's been in my stash for a while. I bought it because I want to make myself more blouses, because I keep going from one extreme to the other. I'm either making too many bottoms, so skirts, trousers, etc., and not enough tops, making too many tops and not enough bottoms. So I'm just trying to get a balance, to have a stash of tops that I know that I don't mind making, that are relatively easy to make, so that when I do make a bottom of some sort, I just immediately make a top to sit with it, so then that ticks that off the box. At least I will have a top and a trouser that can sit together, and then once it gets into the wardrobe, it can mix around with different things. So Butterick 6487, I found it really easy to use. I would suggest that if you are a first time top maker or a first time sewer, this would be a pattern I would say to use, because there are very few details in it. It's got a side seams, obviously, back seam. The neck is all gathers, which I think is a relatively easy stitch to get to grips with. There aren't any darts in it, and it would be a very easy garment to try and fix yourself because there aren't any darts. It would just be about getting your basic measurements done, so it's probably like a really good template block as well. And yeah, I just really like it, and it's also got various details on the neckline. It's all high neck, so if you weren't a fan of high necks, then this probably isn't for you, but I am a fan of high necks, as you can tell from the collar here. I honestly don't know where it's come from. I just seem to be obsessed. Almost any pattern that I can get my hands on that has a collar on it that's like this, then I will get it, or I will find a way to put one on myself. So I really enjoyed using this pattern. The one thing about the top that I actually made is that I need to improve the way I cut out viscose in the same way I need to improve the way that I cut out chiffon, because it's so slippery, and most of the time I used it and I cut it out with scissors. I think I end up moving the fabric as I'm cutting because I probably don't have it either pinned down properly or weighted down properly. So one of the things I definitely want to try and get my hands on is some fabric weights to see if that helps, because the across the back measurement, in theory it should fit me straight out of the box on the size 14, but this just doesn't, and when I go to move my arms like this, it just doesn't really work. Part of it is probably that my back may have changed as well. I mean, it happens that your measurements aren't set in stone forever, so that's definitely something I'll have to go back and see if I need to actually amend the size of the pattern. But I do want to improve the way that I cut out slippery fabrics, because it seems to be a bit of a trend. Anytime I use a slippery fabric, the measurements go a bit awry. So there are two ways to tackle that, I think. First, look at the pattern, check if the measurements actually fit, and second, try and find a better way, i.e. fabric weights, to cut out slippery fabrics. The next item I'm going to show you is this lovely dress. So I've made two dresses out of this fabric, and it is an embroidered mesh fabric, I think is the only way I can describe it. When I saw this fabric, it really reminded me of like the laces that you would see at Indian weddings that have got embroidery on it, and then little pearls on it as well. And I just absolutely love this. He goes to war. 6505 to make this dress, which is a pattern I have used previously for a dress that I made a couple years ago, and it was a laser cut floral print dress. I had to try and remember what it was, on PU fabric, and then obviously the lining as well. And I really love this dress. I love all the different ways that you can make things with it, and again, it's a really simple like style and shape. The one thing that I find quite tricky with this dress, and I found it with the other one, once it's all made, because you have so many different layers of fabric all doing their own job, it's quite a hard dress to wear and feel comfortable. I don't think I'm quite explaining it properly, but it's basically got 3 layers of fabric underneath it, because you've got your top layer, and then you've got the underlining of obviously the lace, because if you're making it out of lace you're going to need something, and then you've got the actual lining of the dress. But all 3 of those fabrics aren't joined together, so as you move around, each layer of the fabric is doing its own thing at the same time. So I just find it quite difficult to, when you're moving, to know that all 3 of the layers are laying flat at the same time. It could just be something that's in my mind, because I'm so aware of the movement, because I can feel all of it, and it might just be actually you can't tell one piece. But it's just one of those things that I would say to bear in mind if you are thinking of getting that pattern, and it is a lovely pattern. Probably not a beginner's pattern. I would probably say someone who has been sewing for a while, I would say, is probably the pattern that it needs for. What makes it a pattern that's better for intermediate or people that have been sewing for a longer period of time is the intricate details inside the dress that give it the finished item. Doesn't mean to say that if you are just starting out on your sewing journey that you can't make it. I would just say that it would be something you would need to set yourself as a task and not think you can complete it in like 2 or 3 hours, and just let yourself take a weekend or however long it takes to make it and for it to fit and all the different pieces to lay together. The next item I'm going to show you is this dress. So it's the exact same fabric as the one that I used for the McCall's dress, and this I used a Vogue pattern to make. For this I used Vogue 9278, and I bought this dress because in the summer it got really hot and I did my usual thing of I'm just going to buy loads of sewing patterns for things that I can make in cotton, because I'm obviously going to be able to make them in a day. Please insert sarcasm here. There is no way I would ever be able to make anything in a day, you know, with juggling everything else that has to happen in life. But nonetheless, I decided to go out and buy it. But I am very glad that I did get my hands on this pattern, because it was super easy to make. I absolutely love this dress. Love the pattern, love everything about it. And yes, I think if you are in need of a summer dress or any kind of strappy dress like this, go and get this pattern. It is super easy to make up. It's really fun. It's just a pattern that you can have forever and ever and ever. And if you do need to make a silky strap dress for a special occasion, then this pattern will do you. If you need to make something for summer, something in lace, anything, this is a great pattern. I really love this fabric. I think it's worked really, really well with this dress. And it works well with the other dress as well, I think. My biggest difficulty was trying to get over all the little pearls that are dotted around. But luckily for me, the pearls, they are actually all in a horizontal row, so it was just about a bit of pattern placement on that to make sure that I wasn't getting too many seams over them. And any of them that did end up falling on a seam, I just like found a way to either twist it off or cut it out so it didn't cause too much of a problem. But yes, I absolutely love this dress. I'm probably going to make many more. I have an idea already for some offcuts of sequin fabric that I have. I'm going to try and make that dress out of using the technique that I found in the flounces for the top that I showed you at the beginning, the Butterick B6487 top. There's an option that you can do a double flounce where I've just done a single flounce on mine, and within that you would do like your first flounce, and then underneath you'd have a band where you would attach your second one onto. And I'm thinking if I use that technique with the offcuts of the sequin that I have, I should be able to make it long enough by using the band bit maybe as like the same fabric as the lining to have a flounce strappy dress that I should hopefully have enough to get out of the fabric that I have, but they're literally just strips of offcuts of sequins, so they're if I stack them on top of each other they will not be long enough to make a dress at all. But I think if I can get the band in between right, then I should be able to make something out of them, which would be quite exciting. So finally, the last thing that I'm going to show you wasn't made in January, it was finished in January, and it was my dress from the Little Red Dress project. And I am still so in love with this dress. It was a dress that I had envisioned in my mind just from looking at the different patterns that I had and just some inspiration from Rihanna, and I'm really glad I managed to execute it. I didn't finish it in time for the deadline because I did that thing that I always do. I panic and I rush and I try and finish it, and then I make small errors and things don't end up looking exactly how I want it to in my mind. So then I end up thinking that the dress or whatever it is that I'm making at the time is much worse than what it is, but actually it's not. So I did the right thing. I stopped working on it, put it to one side, didn't forget about it because it was hanging in my room, but just did other things, and I was like, just come back to it when you're in the right mindset. And then towards the end of January I started thinking like, okay, let me just re-look at the dress, see how bad it is really. Obviously it wasn't actually that bad, and then I was able to be in the right mindset to be able to do the finishing touches that I needed to do. I actually used a combination of 3 patterns to make this dress. The bow detail at the top, the help and inspiration to make that came from this Burda Style pattern 6388. The top, the bodice type part of it came from McCall's 7789, which was the green jumpsuit that I made towards the end of 2018 that I love. That's where I got that inspiration from. And then the skirt of the dress is just a circle skirt, which I can't actually remember which pattern that I got that from, but it would have been one of the numerous dress or skirt patterns I have that are in that style. And I think it's turned out really, really well. The difficulty that I had that made me stop making it in December was with the armholes. The fabric has just a really slight stretch to it, and because I was trying to put the bow, which is obviously quite heavy when you put all the fabric together, on the front, it started to stretch the armholes a little bit. Instantly I was like, oh my gosh, I've made a mistake, this dress it's horrible now, it will never be able to be worn. And I just needed to take 5 minutes to actually sit down and think, okay, fine, so the armholes, they're not perfect, what can you do? You can either try and take them in, but you're then going to have to undo all your stitching. Do you really want to do that? Probably not. You could force it, but then if you force it, then you're probably not going to be too happy with the way that it looks. So what are your other alternatives? If this is how it is, what can you do? And I already knew that I needed to adjust the zip at the back because it was just, it just wasn't quite tight enough. And then when I realised when I tightened the zip at the back, that it instantly pulled the armholes back a little bit, so then it reduced the gape and the bit that I thought was so terrible. And then also I readjusted the bow. Before I had the bow edges pinned right up here, so it was causing a bit more like pressure on the armholes. So when I lowered it down, it then took a little bit more of the pressure off, but then also works to hide any potential horrific gape that might be there. So all in all, I am absolutely in love with the dress now, and I am very, very glad that I waited. If I had have been able to finish the dress in 2018, it definitely would have been one of my top makes for 2018, because it's just the kind of sewing that I love. Sitting down, having an idea in your head of what you want to make, and then finding that you actually have pieces of that garment already in amongst the pattern haul that you have. That is just what I love. It's literally taking apart something that already exists in terms of the patterns that you own, and then making it into something that is creative and completely from your own mind. So you've literally just designed something with the help of someone like doing the patterns for you, which, you know, is fine. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'd be really interested to find out what you were sewing through the month of January. So either leave me a comment in the box below or leave your link down there. I'd love to find out what you've been sewing, what patterns you found useful, any new patterns that you've bought in January from any of the new collections. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye!